It's also going to be during this period that we see the early stages of industrialization. Now, the Industrial Revolution actually begins in England. The Industrial Revolution changes the world, and essentially what it is going from people and animals doing all the work to machines doing the work. America doesn't have its Industrial Revolution until the mid 1800s or so, but it will transform every aspect of society. Jefferson, by the way, doesn't like it. Remember, he wants this nation of independent farmers. He doesn't really want a nation of factories. The British will attempt to keep their technology secret. They will closely guard their technology to try to prevent it from leaving Britain so other countries can compete with them. But nonetheless, America is fairly good at stealing this technology. The most spectacular story is Samuel Slater, who builds a spinning mill to help make cloth, to turn cotton into cloth. He builds this in Rhode Island in 1790, and he builds it by memorizing. He worked in one of these mills in England, and he memorizes every single part of the machine, comes to America and recreates them by hand. It's really quite an accomplishment. Eli Whitney will create the cotton gin in 1793. One of the problems with cotton, and one of the reasons why we didn't see a lot of cotton cultivation yet, was it was a lot of work to pick the seeds out. Here in America, we grew one particular type of cotton called long staple cotton. That's what grew better here. But it had lots of seeds in it, and it required an enormous amount of labor to pick those seeds out. Well, the cotton gin was basically a machine that used little teeth to pull the seeds out for you. And it meant that you could grow, short staple cotton. We grew short staple cotton, not long. And it meant you could grow short staple cotton and pull the seeds out much easier. And within 10 years of the invention of the cotton gin, the amount of cotton production in America will increase by 800%. And this revitalizes slavery. Slavery was actually dying. And I think at the time of the Constitution, most people believed slavery would only be around for another generation or so. But the cotton industry is going to turn that back around and re-intensify our dependence on slaves. It also fuels this new textile industry. Slater built this machine to make textiles or cloth, and now the South is going to start growing cotton to feed those machines. Maybe a more important invention by Eli Whitney is the interchangeable parts. He makes them first for his gin, meaning that before there weren't interchangeable parts. So if a piece of something broke, you had to handcraft a new part. But Eli Whitney's interchangeable parts means you just made all the parts and then you assembled them to make the machine, and if something broke, you could replace it with a part that was already made. His greatest application of this is actually when the United States commissions him, hires him to build muskets, and he builds rifles that are made out of parts that could be taken off of one rifle and put on the other, which makes them much easier to build and repair. Transportation is also going to see significant improvement here, and this is a real problem. Transportation in America is terrible, and so even where we can produce crops or goods easily, it's hard to get them to market. Robert Fulton, who's the guy here on the left, will build the first steamboat, which is a boat powered by a steam engine. Now, it was incredibly slow. I mean, incredibly slow. But it could go upstream. And of course, other boats could only go one way. The steamboat could go two ways. Now, you could walk faster than this thing went, but the thing about the steamboat is because it was on water, you could load it down with cargo and send it upstream, not just downstream like most boats. One of the signers of the Constitution, Robert Livingston, the guy here on the right, will actually hook up with Fulton and promote his steamboat, and will actually become more famous than Fulton, who invented it. The first steamboat was called the Clermont, and it sailed up and down the Hudson River in New York, beginning in 1807. The first roads were private toll roads. They were called turnpikes because you had these little gates here that you had to open up to let people on. You had to pay to get onto the roads, and they were largely used for business. The first one was from Philadelphia to a suburb, or to a little town 60 miles away called Lancaster. And there never were a whole lot of these. This was fairly limited. Only 3% of the population is urban in 1800. That means that, and by urban at this point we mean a town of 8,000 or more. And so 97% of people lived in the country, basically. The largest cities in America were the 70,000 people in Philadelphia and the 60,000 people in New York City.